Hello! Today I'm wearing my RushFPV t-shirt. This is a coincidence because I wasn't intending to make a video today, but now I am because stuff has happened. I've got here a RushFPV F7 blade flight controller. Why have I got this? Well, first off, I should say that I really like the RushFPV stuff. I fly my Aquila quad quite a lot, and that's got a RushFPV VTX in there and one of the antennas. And whenever I put a video out, people always say, "Oh, what VTX is that? The video is so clean." RushFPV. Check them out, they're very good. And to be fair, I've had this a good few months. The intention was to put this into my bone drone, but the ESC board I was using was heavily linked in with the flight controller, and so I couldn't use that. And I don't like to take things apart to put things in, unless it's something simple, because, you know, if it ain't broken, don't try and fix it. But something is broken, and it's my Aquila. Last night, just as I was wanting to check something out to someone else to try and replicate a problem, I noticed the flight controller wasn't working. The flight controller I had in here was this little Ishin thing. But let's go into close-up. I'll show you what's happening here. I'll show you what you get in here, and then I'll show you how I'm going to wire things up and desolder things and put it all back together again. Join me in close-up. Okay, here's the Aquila, and I'll show you what happens when I plug this thing in. You hear the da-da-da, where's the da-da? You'll see a lack of any lights going on there. And when I plug this into Betaflight, it sees this as an STM32, but that's it. It doesn't know anything about any code running on it, or any config, or anything else. So it seems like the entire board is just hosed, aside from the fact that it still manages somehow to pass video through without any OSD, obviously. And the chip can respond in some ways to it. But to be fair, this was a lot of work. This was off, as I mentioned, an old Ishin build, and there wasn't the available, well, there was the available UARTs on this board, but they were very hard to get to. So I have got direct soldering in mid-board, 2 wires there, another 2 wires there, another 2 there. I think I used soft serial somewhere else, and I've got another 2 wires going underneath the board. It is not the ideal board for this. It would be a lot easier with something with proper connections and the UARTs that you want and stuff like that. I suppose the reason I got that is because it was already with an ESC and thus it would just plug in. But ignoring that, this is what we have today. The RushFPV Blade Analog Mini F7. So let's get it out the box and see what's in there. Brief user manuals, which you can't really see against this white background, but basically the wiring about how things connect. Here's the little flight controller itself. I'm quite liking it in terms of how it's laid out. You see at the front we've got all the obvious things. We've got the camera, we've got the VTX, we've got the RX, and notice this is a more modern one because it has an RX and a TX, so hooking up things like Express LRS or Crossfire or all that stuff that needs an RX and a TX, no problem. It's got an LED there. We've got, I'd say a slightly older, the fact that it's using micro USB instead of USB-C. But if we flip this, it's done a couple of things differently. For example, instead of having one of those multi-connectors for the ESC, it's just got a load of pads. So we've got ground, battery, what is CS? Current sensor, R3 is the telemetry, and then the 4 motors to wire up. And then down the bottom, nicely accessible, ground 5 volt, we've got a T1R1, a T5R5, and a DA and CL. We've got 2 jumpers to do, which we need to do something with. So we've got an RX there to flick between 3.3 and 5 volts. And up the top here, we can decide if we want the battery voltage going through the VTX or 5 volts. Very handily, it actually says a firmware is Rush Blade F7, which is always good because we know what we're doing. Yeah, so what I want to do is desolder and remove that flight controller and start putting this one in. One thing I have to say about the Aquila, which I didn't know until the point that I had to take it apart, is that these screws that came with it are horrible. Little bit of thread lock on when I put things in, not, you know, permanent thread lock, but these absolutely stripped like they were pieces of cheese. I could not get the top ones out without, well, I could put a hacksaw blade and try and create something to do it, but I basically managed to get it out from below. This one was sort of half undone, and I had to get a pair of pliers around that to get that out. So I'm going to get some better screws to go upwards. I think I'll just leave these ones in place rather than fiddle with it. But yeah, that's a shame. It's often the case with these hex head screws that they're too easy to do bad things with. I think the sort of the T-driver ones seem to be better screws. Anyway, I'll have to get some replacement ones there. But meantime, let's get desoldering this thing and figure out how we're going to do the wiring. Sorry, switched to my phone. I forgot to tell you all the cables that are in that package underneath everything because I wanted to get straight off and get on with it. So you got pretty obvious ones for the LED, RX, camera. Camera's got this little bit for the OSD board as well, which is quite cool. And the VTX one there. You've got things so you can plug in from ESC boards and connect up. You've got spare bits and pieces, empty shells, and you've got these nice squidgy things that you can obviously mount with. So all cool. I've already got this one out, and I'm just sort of deciding how I'm going to hook stuff up because I've got, you know, bits and pieces of cable everywhere. But I think, because I wasn't sure about how that ESC board worked, and it looks like it says plus 1234 minus, which the color coding kind of works. I might just get a multimeter out just to double check it, but yeah, that looks fairly easy at least.
Here's a pic of the underside of the board, and after checking with a multimeter I went ahead and soldered on the ESC connector. That's the bit on the left hand side there, and you can see on the right hand side to ground 5V T5 and R5 I've attached the GPS. I also took the opportunity to set the jumpers there, so my RX is working at 5V and my VTX is working at battery voltage.
And here's how it looks with everything connected. So pretty neat on the board. I like these connectors. Only problem here is I had a very short amount of space, so I've just had to use those sort of little squidgy washers under there. Obviously the camera's going to plug in there, and the GPS is going to drop in there, and the VTX antenna in there. So yeah, let's put the rest together and we can try it out.
Welcome to the windiest day I've flown in for a long time. I've just had a go at maiden this wing, and that was spicy. We're going to put the Aquila back in the air. It's got the new flight controller. I'm not expecting it to be very nice because it is so windy, but I thought I could at least check it out, make sure everything still works and stuff, see how it feels generally speaking, given that it is like 20 mile an hour wind. It's pretty nasty, but it gives an opportunity to test, and let's face it, the days aren't getting better during the next week or so, so it's like this time or nothing. Can you spot the issue? Yeah, that flashing satellite symbol on the left hand side giving me absolute 0 satellites, and thus having no rescue mode. I checked this out on the computer through Betaflight, and it looked like we were getting a signal even though we don't pick up a full set of satellites in the house. But you know, I got fed up of waiting and I thought I'd go out and try it, and I'd already flown this for over a minute thinking maybe I'll get something popping up as soon as I fly it, which sometimes happen, but we got absolutely nothing on this. Nothing at all. As far as how it flies, it's a little hard to tell because going this way we're going into a very strong wind. As we make the turn here, we're going with the wind, which is a bit smoother obviously, but yeah, it's really hard to tell. I mean, what I could say is I didn't hear any sort of oscillation or anything from the motors. I haven't done any tuning on this. This is absolute default. So it seems to be performing okay. What I've got here, I was just talking to a man that was walking his dogs past, and he said, watch out for those buzzards up there, that they might go and catch your quad. And yeah, they were definitely checking me out, these two guys. So I flew around with these guys for a while. They had absolutely 0 issues with me being there. They spent some time chasing me around and then were pretty nonplussed by the fact I was behind them. They can move so quickly. They can basically sort of, you know, do a split S and barrel roll and anything they need to. They have complete air superiority. So that was nice that we got to fly around some buzzards. There's his mate there trying to get me to surprise attack. But yeah, as far as the actual testing goes, this was pretty dismal on 2 fronts really. First off, I really can't tell if we're having much of a smooth flight because it's so windy, and secondly, obviously
I've got no GPS signal, and that's a right pain for testing out all my other features. So I went ahead and brought it down.
Well, the main board works fine, but obviously that GPS is having some sort of problem. I checked it at home to an extent that I could see that it was flashing, and we seem to be getting messages from it, but something's not quite right there, so I need to go back and check that in more detail. It had problems before with just like things disconnecting and stuff, having bad solder joints. That needs checking out properly. The rest of it though is pretty good, but in this wind it's so hard to tell. I'm going to come back a better day for flying.
Okay, so investigating the GPS problem, and what I've done, I've just plugged my quad in and I've sort of hung it close to the window where it can get something, and trying to work out if it's getting a valid GPS signal. Well, basically you're looking for this GPS symbol there. That basically tells us that it's getting something from it, and one way of seeing that is if I go to the tethered logging and I can say start logging raw GPS, and that logs to a log file, and if I come along to here I can tell that log file, and I can see that we're getting basically a timestamp and a bunch of zeros. So basically we know we're getting stuff from the GPS. Not anything useful, but it's basically working. We've got it connected round the right way essentially. So the other thing I then did is I went to the GPS and I left it running here to see what would happen. And what I started to see is little bits of satellites appearing. I could leave this all day, I wouldn't get a 3D fix, but it gave me confidence that at least the GPS was receiving data, and Betaflight was able to see that, you know, there was some stuff happening there and it was all looking good. For some reason it just wasn't locking. So what I did next to check the GPS by itself is I installed that little Wi-Fi GPS mate. So this has got its own battery, and that is powering the GPS on its own without anything else. And I'm in the conservatory. It's got a roof there, but it's a sort of clear roof. The cat's not completely impressed with me being here. But what I noticed is I would get a lock on this in about a minute, and what we're waiting for is basically a red light to start flashing on the GPS. You see it's just a green light there at the moment. It's been on for about 30 seconds. Okay, took a bit longer today. It's raining, but if you can see there's a little red light flashing there. There's a blue light, which is basically it's sending data, and that red light means it's got a fix. So what I want to do now is turn it on. I know I've got the props on, don't worry, I've also got the radio here. I've got my screen here so we can see what we get, and I'm filming on the phone, so I'm just going to try and stand this up, and let's see what happens when I turn it on. That red light was there, and now it's gone. And look here, we've got absolutely 0 sats, which is not good. So what's happening here? It seems like my satellite signal or my GPS is getting interference from the quad, and the only thing we've changed is that flight controller. So it's quite possible the noise, the extra noise, is coming from there. This is always quite a challenging configuration, having a GPS so close to the electronics, but yeah, this seems to push it over the edge. So I thought I'd do one thing, which is let it get a lock whilst in that battery, leave it 2-3 minutes, see if it acquires a stronger signal, and try turning it on again, see if that makes a difference. Alright, it's got another fix, and what I've done is I've left that for a further 3 minutes, and I figure that's plenty of time for it to build up its almanac and know what's what. It's going to be a question of whether this then wipes it completely out, whether it recovers or not. Let me see if I can get this in a position where you can see it as I plug in. Okay, balancing this phone as best as I can and plugging in. Red light's still there. And that red light has gone off again, so we've lost the lock there. Over here you can see 0 sats, so I'm going to give it like 30 seconds just to see if anything recovers. Just like, you know, just a token, give me 1 satellite or something just for fun, that would do. Tell me something's going to work. Okay, it's over a minute, we've got nothing. We've also got nothing there, and I've tried turning telemetry off on the radio as well. Not that that should really do anything. Yeah, I think it's the power of this. I can't do too much about what I can do. I mean, I can twist wires together, try and keep them out of the way and stuff, but there's a limit to that one. I've got a different GPS. I think it's probably the same receiver, but I don't know if it's perhaps better shielded or anything, so I could try that. It's one from HCLC. The reason I didn't use it in the first place is this Bishan one has the connector in the right place to go through there, but let's see if we can use the other one, see if it's any better. Okay, so what's going on with this picture? Well, I watched a bunch of videos about trying to get GPSs working, and one of the ones I came across was shielding, and I thought I'd heard about it before, basically using some sort of copper mesh. This is actually just copper tape. It's for preventing slugs getting in plants mostly. And the crucial thing about it seemed to be that you needed to ground it in order for it to shield better. So this copper tape actually takes solder quite well. So this is soldered onto the ground. It's wrapped around basically the GPS cable as it comes out. And going to try that out. Nothing to lose. Give it a try. Okay, just powering it by the USB lead, we have got a red flashing light there. A bit hard to see because my Millennium Falcon build's in the way. But Betaflight is telling me I've got 7 sats. So let's plug in a battery and see if it keeps it. To do that, we need to be in a place where we can actually see it. There you go, you can see that red flash there. Okay, let's plug in a battery. Still got a red flash. 6 sats, it's working. Oh, it's dropped off to 5. It's not a great signal. However, it had 0 sats before, and now it has some sats, and it's given me a proper fix. So I think this is worth trying to fly with. Yeah, a little bit of copper tape. Sats has gone back up to 7. Yay! Ooh, I didn't think this would work. There you go. So good, isn't it?
So here we are back in the field. You can probably see that little gold looking copper tape in there. Let's see if we can switch this on. It's going to get sats. Let's see if rescue mode works, and we'll basically see if we can fly it nicely, because today it's not blowing a gale. It's not windless by any means, but it's more regular sort of wind, so we're able to see how calm and stable it is based on those default settings. Let's fly. And I'm pleased to say we got 8 sats. Took about 2 minutes from the cold start, but they got there. That was the main thing. So we're off and flying, and I have to say there is a slight problem here. You probably can't see it, but there's a slight drift on the roll where it's rolling over to the left. So I'm keeping correcting it, and I'm thinking that's a bit weird, what's happened there? Because I just wanted to go out and try rescue mode, and I'm doing it now, but there's a problem with this drift. As we're going back on rescue mode, and of course I'm not doing anything with the sticks, you can see it kind of roll over towards the left there, and I'm thinking, have I got a problem with the gyro? It seemed okay generally, but it seems to be rolling over. That is weird. But in the meantime, I thought ignore that for now, and we'll just make sure we can get a decent range out of it. So I've speeded this bit up because it's not very exciting, but essentially, yeah, I just wanted to get to that 1K mark. Normally this would be more like 1.4, 1.3K, but because I'm further along in the field, I can just about get to 1K, but I just wanted to check that all is good and we're getting a decent signal. And yeah, it is. Everything's fine. We get a small drop off as we do the turn, as you might expect. And this VTX is holding up well. I've accidentally put it in 500 milliwatt mode instead of 200 milliwatt mode, which is just an oversight on my part, but we get an absolutely perfect picture at 200, so there's really no need to run it any higher than this. It is a nice day, and as far as the flight controller goes, apart from the fact it's seemingly rolling one way, it seems to be doing fine in terms of flying. It's nice and smooth. But I thought to myself, you know what, when I was putting the battery in, I had this thing about how I was going to connect it, so I ended up plugging it in while it was sort of sat on my knee and then deciding how to put the battery in. I wondered to myself, is that going to screw the gyro up? So I thought, I'll come down, I'll land, I'll plug the battery in while it's nice and flat, and then it can get a proper gyro calibration. And so here we go for flight 2. We're taking off and we're doing much the same as last time. I want to check that our rescue mode works properly, and at the moment I'm flying out and we don't seem to have any roll, so that looks like it's working fine. It was just me plugging in the battery whilst I was kind of picking up the quad and not letting it initialize nicely. So let's go ahead and try that rescue mode, because obviously we want to check that it will get back to me, or just vaguely, as far as it goes if I lose signal. And rescue mode is always, it's not like return to home. It's like, I am a guided missile, I will crash into you. But as long as it's coming back vaguely towards me, then I can take over control and go from there. And rescue mode seems to be doing well. It's not rolling over, it's going to the right place, it's trying to slow down here. And at this point I take control back again, because that's what I would do essentially. It's close enough to find it. And from that point on, I'm just flying around and having a bit of a laugh, really. And yeah, I've got to say that this flight controller at this point seems to be doing a very good job. It's nice and smooth. This isn't really an acro quad, it's more of a sort of long range, longer flying quad. And it seems to be doing very well for that sort of thing. If I had an HD camera on here, I'd be getting some nice footage I'd be pretty happy with. And what I wanted to do down here is make sure, you know, I could get to about 500 meters and drop down pretty low, just to see, you know, what sort of pitch I got and how bad the signal would be, because there's more blocking me as you get close to the ground. And you can see the LQ dropping there, you can see the dBm value quite low there. And many people have asked me about these shapes in the field, and I've just gone back to check to find out what this is. And once I find out, I will let people know exactly what that is. However, whilst I was out flying this time, I noticed there seemed to be a bit of an issue when I was doing rolls. Something was going a little bit curious. And as I said before, this isn't really something I do a bunch of rolls and flips on, but it definitely made me think that, oh, something's not right with the flight controller here. So rather than try and do it with the battery slightly depleted, I thought I'll come down again, I'll get a new battery, and we'll see if we can replicate this problem. So we're on a new battery, so the thing I did is go up nice and high to test this out. Now what happens is, if we do a nice little roll on a reasonably slow speed, it's all good. But if I go and do this fast, it's when there's more of a problem. So I have basically a muscle memory. I move my thumb over, I know how long to move it, and that's not what normally happens. We seem to be going absolutely crazy on the rolls. Again, if I do it slow, it's absolutely fine. If I speed it up, it goes mental. Now this quad, I'm absolutely sure, is set up exactly the same as all my other quads, which is 1,000 degrees a second, which is not unsubstantial. It's quite fast to react, but this is crazy fast. This is absolutely outrageous. So I don't know what it was. I immediately thought that, you know, we've got a problem here with the flight controller. Something's going crazy with the gyro. Maybe it's demounting, it doesn't like, something like that. But what I'm not confident about here is really throwing it around. Normally I go around and sort of throw it in split S's. I'm just not happy doing that in this situation. So I thought, you know, I'd better get back and check it out at home. I didn't think of doing anything at the field at all, because I was so adamant that my setup was absolutely bog standard and the same it always is. And you know, when things are the same as they always are, then you get very used to, you know exactly how far to move your thumb and exactly how long, and that should give you a perfect roll. But not in this time. So back home I went. Well, you know, I didn't even check this at the field because I was so confident my rates were set as per normal, but just going in to double check them, and I've got a rate of 1 instead of 0.8, which, because of the sort of exponential way it works, has doubled my normal rate. My rate's reasonably high at 1,000 degrees a second, but pop that up to 1 and it gets to 2,000 degrees a second, which is like twice as much as it should be. So I'm going to put these down and I'm going to go fly it again, and
let's see if that gets it sorted. I can't believe I've missed this. Why didn't I double check it?
Well, here we are, back again, third time lucky. Wind's a little bit gusty, it's supposed to be 10 miles an hour. It's gusting a little bit higher, but it shouldn't be a problem for this. Hopefully, we've got the rate set right this time, so let's double check we can do our normal flips and rolls and stuff, and the flight controller doesn't go crazy.
Okay, so it's third time lucky, and quite honestly, I do expect this to be fine, but it doesn't make sense to me not to double check it just in case there was a problem. But yeah, suddenly the rolls make a lot more sense, and me moving my thumb the exact amount that I expect is having the desired effect. One thing I do note though, and you'll probably be able to see it if you look carefully, is we're getting a little bit of bounce back. So when I stop the roll, you'll notice it's like there's a little bit of well, basically a little bit of bounce back. There's a little bit of settling. It doesn't stop on a dime. It does a little bit bouncy back. So there's a little bit of tuning to do on this board. It is not perfect out the gate. It definitely needs something. I have to say, this quad is not great for flying freestyle. It's kind of a little bit all over the place, and it doesn't feel smooth. Its weight and power is all wrong. It's not a great freestyle quad, but you know, you can burn it around and you can do some stuff, and it's okay. But it's much better just to go out and cruise. That was quite a good indication of the bounce back there. You can just see it wobble as it kind of comes out of that fast roll or flip, and then it has a slight problem there. But yeah, I'm at least happy that there's nothing wrong with the board. That's all good. It flies absolutely fine, and we can finally bring this quite long review to its exciting conclusion. Well, there you go. We have managed to fly my Aquila. It's rebuilt, it's got the flight controller in, it's now getting satellites. Had one or two problems there, and I think that's quite a good thing, because it's really hard to review a component like a flight controller, especially given that a flight controller is very dependent upon what you put it on and then how long you're going to spend tuning it and bits like that. So I'd much prefer to do this as like, this is my experience of doing this, these are the problems I encountered. And it's also interesting to note that most of the problems I encountered were down to me assuming things or being a bit dim with how I'd set it up. I had the gyro problem I thought was a problem, where it was sort of just going left, and that was just the fact that I plugged it in at a funny angle. And then I had like, oh look, it's spinning out of control. My rates were wrong. It was really interesting to learn about how I could protect a GPS wiring from itself. And I trawled back through my YouTube history because I wanted to call out a video I saw about it, which was the most useful. There were lots and lots of videos I saw, but a lot of them were saying you're going to need to replace it or move it further away. A guy called Are You Serious, nice play on words there, came out with the actual video about how to wrap copper around it and how to ground it, and I'll put a link to his video at the bottom because I think I need to shout that one out at least, because that really helped. So yeah, as far as the review part of the board goes, I do like the build quality on RushFPV. I like the fact that all the ports here are nicely labelled. You get all the wiring together, and when you flip over and have to do soldering here, all the pads nice and big, they're right at the edge of the board, so that's nice and easy to do. And more importantly, have you ever had boards where you're trying to get solder on it, it doesn't stick? This just soldered in really easy. So I really do like the quality of the RushFPV stuff, especially their VTXs, which I absolutely love. However, this certainly did put more noise out than the previous one, as demonstrated by the fact that the GPS could not lock a satellite from standard. I don't know if this is because the fact that, you know, it's got larger power regulators on it. It says it's got a 5 volt 3 amp back, which is much more significant than the other one could do. So maybe that's the thing. And certainly out of the box, at least flying this one, it needed a bit of tuning. You saw that bounce back issue we had, but that said, I could put that in a completely different quad and it could fly completely differently out of the box. So that's why it's like, can you review one of these without, you know, putting it in half a dozen quads and seeing how it is directly compared to something else? I don't think so. I can just say the quality is very high and my quad's flying okay. It needs a bit of tune, but certainly putting out more noise for the GPS. That's about it really. Yeah, RushFPV, good manufacturer, high quality components, I really like them. And I would say there's links down below, but RushFPV don't have their own online store, so basically find it at the best price and best place you can and buy it if you're interested. But I hope that was useful. I hope you got something out of it. For me, I've learned how to shield a GPS, so that was really useful, and I've also learned to examine my config a bit better before I just jump to conclusions. Anyway, I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.